Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell, I do have the webcam on today. I'll probably start using it more as people seem to like it when I put it on. Adds a little bit more of a personal touch, and I don't really have a reason as to why not to do it. So but yeah, regardless, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a very active pattern. And it's a pattern change that I talked about yesterday that seems at this point pretty likely. And the matter, really, at this point, the question is whether or not this pattern will bring more of a snowy kind of onslaught of precip, a lot of rain. Regardless of what it brings in terms of snow, rain, it looks very, very active, and it seems to be impacting. It will be impacting almost everyone across the United States. Again, it's just a matter of the details at this point. And yes, many large storms are possible with this pattern. So before we get into this, if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. If you perhaps do enjoy what you're seeing on this channel and you would like to support it, you could do so by subscribing. Again, don't subscribe just because I told you so. I'm not begging for subscriptions. I'm just reminding you that if you do happen to enjoy this channel, subscribing is probably the best thing you can do to support it. Also, hitting the like button also helps out. If you have any comments as well, good, negative, neutral, leave them down below. I get to as many as I can, usually most. All right, let's start talking about this. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is the GFS model. I often begin with this model because it goes out very far, and it's often actually, sorry about that, relatively accurate and does a very good job. So I'll play this forward at its constant speed, and let me see if you guys notice anything. So we do have a storm system across the Northeast that pushes away. We have a little disturbance this week. You can see here's a time 21st at different time periods. We do have a bit of a cooler air, some lake effect showers, but really watch for the pattern change right here. Look at all those colors, blue, red, and look at the storm that comes out of that. And that's not it. After that storm comes through, we do see a bit of chilly air and a developing system. We see more coming in, and it seems to be the case that there could be a parade of storm systems, if you will. Now, this is the newest model run, and it's honestly not even the one that shows the most activity. But let's go back to the 12Z model, and let me show you what this one shows. Again, I'll just run it through and show you what are the differences. So again, there's our system. There's our little midweek system into this week, the 20th, the 21st of October. That does bring in some cool air, not a ton, but definitely there. A bit of lake effect showers. And look, again, we see waves of precip, and they are big. They are multi-day, and they're followed right after another. Look, across California, even getting on into Nevada, Southern California. And again, each one of these systems does develop into some sort of a disturbance further east. A lot of snow across the west, but not necessarily the east. And that's the thing I want to point out with this. That all the models at this point, let me just show you at this point, the Canadian, or whichever model run you take a look at the Canadian, it doesn't matter. Look, we have our system this week. We have a little bit of a dry period right this week, really, and then anything afterwards, it becomes active. Look, there's our first system across the west taking shape. It kind of slams into the mountains. There's our really a second one, if you will. As we push this forward, this model only goes out to 240 hours, but look how many systems it shows. And look how much precip across Northern California, Northern Nevada, Washington, Oregon, Idaho. And a lot of that doesn't fall as snow, only in the upper elevations. But it does seem that the cold air will be making more and more of a I guess, an appearance as the further you go out. And notice that even at 240 hours, we see another wave of precip. And let me just quickly show you what the European shows, because again, I'm not demonstrating a individual storm. It's just an overall pattern, so it doesn't really matter for specifics. There's our big system across the Northeast that will be impacting in the short term much of the Northeast coast. So if you live across the Northeast, stay safe. Really, the biggest threat with this are some thunderstorms and a bit of flooding potential, but again, that does just really move out relatively quickly. There's our little system that moves into the west with that little dip in a jet stream. That does bring some snow, some precip. That's good. They need that, and you can see that does bring quite a bit of snow potentially to Wyoming, this little guy, but not much eastward, as it does kind of just pivot off as a rainstorm. Look, by Friday of next week, we have a lot of rain already moving into the west. Again, the European supportive of that same scenario. Look, there's another system that moves in. A ton of rain, a lot of snow in the higher elevations. And there's a third one. right? So you can see there's just a ton of this activity, and all of it pretty much makes its way towards the east. And again, this is the thing, it's going to be very warm. So if this was much more colder and we saw the jet stream a bit more active, you bet that these systems not only would be not only would be stronger and more well organized than what they are kind of portrayed here, which still a pretty decent organization, they would also be producing a lot of snow, across these areas. And that's the thing. I don't think that there will be a snowy pattern, at least for the eastern United States. It will be active, and that's why I'm not calling them snowstorms. I'm just saying several large storms are coming, because they could be bringing mostly rain anywhere east of the Rockies. You can see some of them may have a bit of snow attached on the northern side or far western side, but it's just a sliver, and you can see that a lot of them are just rainmakers. So again, if there was just more cold air, we would be seeing a very snowy scenario for late October. But again, if you were to take a look at the 2-meter temperature anomaly, the cold air, it's just not there. And even if it is a bit below average, it's just really weak and not enough to convert that precip into any snow. And you can see it does stay pretty darn warm. So again, I would say that all the models show a pattern change, a very active pattern across the western and really most of the northern and eastern United States. It's just not necessarily a snowy one. These are just going to be mainly rainstorms. However, for the mountains, I do want to say that a lot of these systems will be producing some decent amounts of snow, and that is because of, well, it's the mountains. They have a bit more cold air. So Canadian, while it doesn't show a ton of snow even for the mountains, it does show some decent amounts. And I do want to mention that this pattern, while may not be the most exciting for snow lovers east of the Rockies or even in the Rockies themselves, as it isn't really the snow pack won't be the greatest, if given the amount of precip that could be falling because of the lack of cold air. It's still a good thing, because as you know, anyone honestly in America should be happy that this is occurring because of the potential drought relief that comes from a pattern like this. Now, yes, I am well aware that a lot of the reservoirs and what's not in the west get filled up with the snow melt in the spring. It's not necessarily, just the rain. And that's why they always say snowpack is important, because even if you get a lot of rain, that washes away. But if you get a snow melt in the spring, that's all of a sudden, that kind of makes its way into each reservoir and fills them up, or at least adequately brings in water for the season. So again, it's much more preferred to be snowpack than just a lot of rain. But regardless, you can see that this is still a decent amount of snow for, again, the lack of cold air and for how early it is in the season. Again, if this were to occur even with such a warm pattern, say in December, maybe there was going to be a bit higher elevation snow, but really where the snowpack is important, this snow, it would occur. And that's the thing. Look at some of these precip amounts also. While yes, it would be better to see a lot of this over here, it is at least decent for a good portion of the Northwest, and these areas are struggling with drought, and Northern California. And there are some large reservoirs like Oroville and whatnot that, or Oroville Dam that's kind of contribute in the Sierra Nevada to a lot of water in California. It would be better if it was the southern Colorado and Utah mountains here, or into Utah and the southern Colorado areas that kind of contributes to the Colorado River, and that has been running historically dry these past few years. But again, it's just the start of, I think, what could be a very active season for the West. And this is just a Canadian, right? If you're to take a look at what the what the GFS shows in terms of rainfall amounts, it doesn't show anything with the most recent model run because it isn't fully processed. But let's take a look at the noon one. And look how much rain it shows for these areas. I mean, that's a lot of precip, pretty much as anyone can get for this time of the year in this time frame, right? And I do want to show you that the GFS also shows a lot of snow, much more than what the Canadian actually shows. And I do apologize. Again, I should be focusing more on the kind of the whole country, but again, the pattern is going to start here and spread eastward, so I'm going to focus on this. And look at these amounts. I mean, obviously these aren't insane, because they usually see high amounts, and every time you see a precip event like we are going to have, you're expecting to see such high snowfall totals. So yes, they could be a bit more expansive if it was more cooler, but again, I mean, at least the higher elevations are saying, look, 50 inches, 60. This is great news, because the snowpack, again, it's getting an early start. Again, if it were to just dry dry out, this wouldn't mean much, but at least we're seeing a promising start. And again, all along the Cascades, the Bitterroots, and into portions of even southern Colorado could be seeing some snow. Not enough, I would say, but it's there. And it's here in Nevada, seeing very encouraging amounts of that snowfall. So that is actually wonderful news. And again, a lot of this will be falling as precip, but again, that's not as important as a snowpack because of the melting. We're kind of the ways water plays into the reservoirs, as it's better if it's snow melt rather than just rain runoff, as it gets absorbed into the soil more easily. But you could see that for the even the lower elevations, that's going to be a lot of rain. And this is the model run from 6 o'clock today in the morning, and you can see that it also showed a lot of precip, actually a lot, and actually furthermore towards the south. So again, this pattern isn't just towards the northwest like we saw last La Nina. It could be a just full out western kind of blasting of precipitation this season, and I'm really hopeful that it will be, because they need this rain, and of course obviously they need this snowfall. Total snowfall from this model, again, showing very similar amounts of high snow, not as much towards the northwest with this one, but more towards the south. Again, regardless of where it falls, it's going to be good news because both areas are drier. Again, the further south you go, a bit more. So this is good, and anyone in America should be happy because a lot of food grows in the west. Food prices depend on how much and how well this can be grown, and a lot of this depends on the snow melt and whatnot that occurs from the snow in the winter. It's starting again in late fall, which we are in. Well, mid to late fall right now. So yes, this is very good, and I just again want to show you that if I were to take a look at the total accumulated snowfall 384 hours out, but for the whole United States, it's really just the western United States that picks up some. While yes, I do think that there may be areas across the Dakotas that pick up some, again, the Northeast. It's at this point, if we don't see a substantial amount or more of cold air show up in the models, we won't be seeing much snow across the northern United States. I mean, and that's fine, right? It's still late October. This would be more concerning if this was December. But again, if it were to continue into December, yes, we would start seeing large snowstorms. As I mentioned, again, if there was a stronger jet stream, these systems would be bigger and producing much more snow, especially with the amount of precip that we're just getting funneled in from the northwest. So truly a active pattern that has, again, a lot of potential, even I would say in the next 15 days to produce some snowstorms again if we do see that cold air show up across the eastern United States, which I do want to show you some of these weather ensembles. They are showing this. So regardless of which one we look at, all of them show a lot of precip across the west. I mean, a lot, and maybe varying in location. You can see this one shows a bit more of that widespread precip towards the plains, but a lot of them I would say all of them actually show it for the Sierras, the Bitterroots, the Cascades. Really anywhere that it can, it will be falling according to these models. And really I want to show you this because there are every, I would say, 5 models. There's a scenario that brings out snow more into the plains or again, away from the mountains. There are some drier scenarios overall, like this model. You could still see there's decent snowfall for the Sierra, but it's not as really not as impressive as what you'd want it to be. But thankfully, it's an outlier, these models. And you can see this one also not too excited. It's definitely there though, and you can see a lot of this isn't even high elevation snow. So again, you can see this one's a very aggressive scenario. This one's a even more aggressive scenario. And look, it brings some of that snow out into the plains. So again, every few models does that. But look, I mean, every single model at this point shows a lot of snow for the mountains. Obviously, some models show up to 40, 50, some only up to 18, 20, which again, even that is snow that I think is very valuable. And you can see there are a few that really kind of deviated more towards the northwest. There are a few that kind of take some of that and bring it towards the south more. Again, these are decent, if not very good snowfall amounts, especially for this time of the year, given the amount of cold air that there will be, which is not much. Again, I do think that regardless of what happens, there will be precipitation, and I think the variance between the weather models between less and more snow is just the amount of cold air that will be, and hopefully there's a lot. I mean, look at this one. Look how much snow it shows for the southern Colorado area. We're into the Sierra Nevada. I mean, that is 40, 50 inches right there, even more. That is brilliant news. Truly the best news you could hear probably in terms of a pattern that sets up across the United States. As yes, it's dangerous with snow and whatnot, the kind of the complications that occur, but the snowpack is truly important. And again, you can see there are some models that bring snow, maybe even into the northeast or out into the plains. And again, I would say that it's getting more and more aggressive as we push forward into the future, and it will be because we're getting colder. Regardless if the pattern stays warm, it's getting colder at the same time. And notice, look at this one, how much snow it shows overall. Just, I mean, a frenzy of snow. And I'll just run through the rest of these to show you that, again, I'm not cherry picking these models. All of them, if not, yeah, most really show an active pattern. And the ones that don't, you can see this one's a more gentle one, if you will. It still shows decent amounts across the mountains. So it's really good news. Look at this one. It brings more snow out into the plains, more of a colder scenario, right? And notice that the models that do bring out more of that snow into the plains also do bring out more into the mountains, because again, if there's cold air out here, chances are there's also cold air out into the west. And look at those, some of those snow amounts. Those are very, very good. And I do want to show you that the precipitation amounts. Hopefully I could take a look at these members, but look at their precip amounts. I can't. Okay, that sucks. Because I was going to say that that's just a snowfall. Again, if it's a warmer scenario and, you know, it shows snowfall amounts that are lighter, maybe not like that. That one was more aggressive. Let's find a lighter showing scenario. Even a model, you know, like this, it doesn't show the highest amounts, I'd say, for the Sierras. It's definitely big. This is probably showing more, you know, there's probably still a lot of rain, though, that falls, because this may not seem like it's an active pattern. It probably is. It's just warmer, so the snowfall isn't as great. But again, yeah, as you saw just from the GFS, it's really interesting to just see, as I play this forward into time, just this flow of precipitation onto the west. Look at that. That's our first one, Thursday. That's our into Friday of next weekend. We do start seeing more precip. Again, not just towards the northwest like it was last year. And it does spread into the plains. Look at all that snow. And another one. And this is just 270 hours out. And before even October ends, we are seeing just an absolute flurry of these storms. And you can see another one moves in. Very, very big ones. And again, I think it's only a matter of time before we get enough of that cold air to produce some of that heavy snow across the plains. And every model I showed you, Canadian, GFS, it didn't discriminate. It all showed the same thing. There's our first one even this weekend, kind of starting to up here. Again, that's our little one, and that could cause a bit of snow into Wyoming. But the big ones, the more wide regional storms, are going to start moving in next weekend. And once they do, it doesn't show any signs of stopping. I want to see if I could zoom out more into the Pacific to see. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Yeah, you can see, look, along the line, the atmospheric river continues. And let's see what the GFS shows since it goes up further. Yeah, just look at that, one after the other of these systems occurring. And it doesn't look like if anything is stopping. Look at all those upstream storms. There's definitely a lot of these storm systems, to say the least, that have potential to just keep slamming into the western United States with obviously snow and rain. And the European model, as I showed you already, I just want to show you again, it's no different. Boom, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, a lot of that will spread eastward with its precip and impacts. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.